I'm absolutely delighted today to be talking to Yvonne Vann, who is the founder of Jolly Dollies, which is a social network for widows. As you'll hear, Yvonne has had quite a challenging life. She got married at the very young age of 19 to a man that was both domineering and controlling. She managed to escape from that marriage in her late 30s and subsequently met the love of her life, a man called Vann, whom she subsequently married. And unfortunately, he passed away at the very young age of 60. The experience of being a relatively young widow led Yvonne to found Jolly Dollies as a group for support, friendship and fun for widows when they find themselves without their partner. So Yvonne, my first question to you is, you left school, I think, when you were 15 and then got married at 19. So tell me what happened after that.
Okay, so I got married very young, and I had met my first husband when I was 15 years old, and he was domineering and wanted me to stay a little girl, really. And as I grew older, I realised that I had a brain and I could do things that I wanted to do, but he never made anything very easy for me to do. And I worked for him in his business, doing the books until quite late in our marriage, until I decided that I wanted to be on my own with my children.
It must have taken quite a lot of courage to leave that marriage if he was quite controlling and domineering. So tell us a bit more about that.
Well, after we were divorced, I was absolutely lost because I had come from quite a troubled childhood into a dominating relationship, and I just couldn't make decisions. I was incapable of making decisions. And then I met the love of my life, as you put it, Victor. And
can you tell us a little bit about how you met him, how and where you met him?
Yeah, well, after I was divorced, we used to live in Buckinghamshire, and I said to my children, if you had the choice of where to live anywhere, where would you like to live? And they said, Cheddar. So I said, right, that's where we're going. So we moved down to Cheddar, and I bought a house down there, and I had to have a job. So I went to work in a solicitor's office, and that's where I met Victor.
He was a solicitor, was he, working in that office?
Yeah, he was a conveyancing lawyer. So I remember when I first met him, he was a very, very athletic sort of man, and the door was opened and I was introduced, and he was sitting with his hands behind his head with his feet up on his desk. And when I was introduced, he looked me straight in the eye, and I thought, I shall avoid him. But we over a long, long time, we just fell in love with one another.
It's actually a really lovely story that you told me about. You resisted his proposal of marriage for several years, I think. So tell us about what happened.
Yeah, so he asked me every single day to marry him for 7 years. And I said no, because I was frightened. The divorce procedure, for anybody that's ever been through that, is awful. And I said no. And then one Saturday morning we were going shopping, and he said, can you put a nice little dress on and we'll go and have a nice meal? So I did, and off we went, and I thought, this is not the way to Sainsbury's. So we ended up at the registry office where he had arranged everything. He had had my ring made specially for me, and I thought, I don't know if I want to get married. And then I thought, well, I love him so much. Yes, I do. So we got married.
That's actually quite romantic, isn't it, when
It
you
is
think
really,
about it?
yeah.
You know, how many other people get married in that way?
That's
not knowing that it was going to happen, and
that was fantastic.
Having it all arranged and organised and everything. Yeah.
Yes.
And so that was 7 years into your relationship that you actually got married, and then a couple of years later, something else happened. So tell us what happened then.
Well, we were going out to dinner, and Victor said that we needed petrol, so we went to the petrol station and he filled up with petrol. And as he walked in to pay, I noticed that his walk had changed. And when he came back to the car, I said, "Are you okay? You know, why are you walking like that?" And he said, I'm fine. I'm not walking any differently." And the next day we went on the beach with the dog, and he was still walking in this odd way. And my husband was very athletic and had that athletic lope, but his walk had completely changed, and I didn't realise then that I'd never see his normal walk ever again. And I kept saying to him, "There's something not right. I think you ought to go to the doctors." And eventually he went, and the doctor referred him to a neurologist in Bristol, and he examined my husband, and he said, "Do you want the good news or do you want the bad news? The good news is that you don't have MS. The bad news is that you have Parkinson's disease." And it was like a bolt out of the blue.
How old was he?
47.
Gosh, yeah, so he was really young to have that
very,
diagnosed.
very young, yeah. As it turned out, he didn't have Parkinson's. He had something far worse, really, multi-system atrophy. And that is a neurological illness that affects all the systems.
Which means that he lost his speech.
His speech, he couldn't swallow, he was bladder incontinent, bowel incontinent, couldn't walk.
So he was totally immobilised.
He was in bed in a hospital bed at home for quite a long time.
Okay, so tell us a bit about the impact on your life that he's becoming more and more disabled, really.
Yes, it completely changed our lives. And I don't think I slept for years, not properly, because part of the illness was that he couldn't swallow. Mm-hmm. So in the night he would choke.
Yeah.
So I was always listening. So I looked after him. I did everything.
So you were his carer.
I fed him, washed him, bathed him in his bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For how many years?
I think it was about 5 years. Mm. Yeah.
Okay, so that was obviously an incredibly difficult time for you, and a very sad time.
Terrible time.
Yeah,
terrible.
Really, really difficult. And he was sick. Was he 60 when he died?
He was.
Yeah, and you were also roughly the same age.
Yeah.
So how did you cope with that period just after he died? What happened?
Totally lost. Totally, because I hadn't. My 50s were lost, really. I can't really remember my 50s. And I felt very alone. I've got a wonderful family, but unless you've been through that, you can't understand what it's like. And I felt I didn't have a social life because I'd looked after him for so long. And then I met somebody that was in a similar situation to me, and we just started going out for a drink or a meal.
This is another widow.
This is another widow.
Yeah.
And other widows got to hear about us, and I thought, do you know, if this works for this little group, why shouldn't it work for all widows?
Yeah.
Because we had this very, very special bond, because we'd all been in that position.
So your personal experience made you think, I could do something about that. Did you have the idea then that you could actually spread that whole notion?
I honestly thought I could help women in the same situation, because we had this bond and we had this understanding. It's quite extraordinary, because it doesn't matter what life you've had or where you come from or anything else. If you've been in that position, you have an understanding of it. And it helped our little group so much, you know, to start getting on with our lives, start picking up our lives again. And I really did start the Jolly Dollies to help as many widows as I can.
Okay, so you actually started it 5 years ago.
I did.
And tell us a little bit about, you know, what the organisation looks like now, how it works.
Well, we've just launched our new website. It's the first one after the first one, so it's 5 years old and it was very tired. Yeah. So we've just launched our new website. It's got its teething problems, but we'll get there. And I was very lucky in the beginning when I started it, because Good Housekeeping magazine got hold of my story. So we had lots of new members.
Yeah.
So that was a very, very good start. And what we do is so somebody joins, and we will put them with members in their area. And for most groups, we have an organiser in a group who will welcome them and arrange to meet them and tell them about their upcoming events. So each group will have its own agenda of events. And then we have our website where there's a chat room, they can download photographs. We have online shopping, so there's all sorts of benefits from being a JD member. And also they can contact one another in so many ways. So it's not just about the group, although that is the amazing thing, but they can go on our chat room and chat with other widows who completely understand what they're going through.
Okay, so it's a really good networking
exactly
setup.
Yes.
And do you cover the entire country?
We do.
And Scotland and
Wales.
Wales? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And how many members have you got now?
I think we've got about 200 and something groups.
Okay.
Yeah.
So roughly how many members in total?
I would say 2,500.
Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And is it growing all the time?
Yes, it is, but it's transient as well, because people join and lives change. Perhaps they'll meet somebody, or it's not for them anymore, or whatever. There's lots and lots of reasons. So that I find quite positive, because it helps build confidence.
Sure.
So it's excellent. And we have holidays. A couple of years ago we had a Jolly Dolly cruise.
Wow. That sounds amazing.
So and this year we're going to Lake Garda, so there's lots of things going on.
Activities and fun things to do.
Yeah.
That sounds absolutely brilliant. And how about your attitude to aging, your aging self? How do you feel? You're in your very early 70s now, so how do you feel about getting older?
I feel great.
Yeah, do you?
Yes, I do. I think that it's difficult, isn't it? Because I look after myself. So I look after myself physically, I eat properly, and I feel great. And I think when you're doing something that you love doing, you're achieving.
Yeah.
So that makes you feel younger and more energetic.
Yes. You've basically created a whole new life for yourself, haven't you?
I have. Yes,
in the
I
last
have.
5 or 6 years, out of quite a desperate situation.
Yes.
You've completely changed direction.
Yes.
And are helping so many other women, which is absolutely brilliant.
I find that incredibly humbling.
Yeah.
When people say, Yvonne, this has changed my life, I find that incredibly humbling.
Yeah. Well, it's a fantastic thing to have done. And as I say, I think it's amazing how out of adversity and quite tough situation you can kind of reinvent yourself almost.
Yes.
And at the age of your mid-60s have a completely new chapter of your life opening up, which I think is incredibly inspirational.
I don't think it was easy. It's not easy to do,
but you do it.
But
you did it, and that's the point.
Yes.
These things are never easy, but it's doing it, which is
and
really
it's given
important.
me more confidence as well.
I'm sure. Well, it's a fantastic story, it really is. And
Thank you.
Today we've made you up in some lovely Look Fabulous Forever makeup. So how does that feel?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I'm a very, very lippy person.
Yeah.
I love lipstick, and your lipstick feels fabulous.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear it, and you look amazing, which is so
very
nice.
much. Thank you.
So thank you very much indeed, Yvonne. I'm sure your story is going to inspire a lot of women when they hear it. And you've had a long and interesting and to some extent challenging life.
Yes.
But you've come out now into your early 70s into this wonderful phase of your life where you're doing something new and exciting and different. And as you say, you're really contributing positively to a lot of people's lives.
Oh yes.
So well done.
Thank you.
And it's been a real pleasure to talk to you.
And you.